As we see this unfold, it seems that there's more and more uncertainty, with now reports of a fourth possible explosion, but which may be a controlled explosion of a suspect package. Are the Belgian and Brussels authority dealing with this correctly? Should we have a complete lockdown of Brussels like we saw following the Paris attacks back in November of last year?
Good morning, Francine. I think it is extremely difficult for the authorities right now to actually understand what is going on, because to the same extent that we are trying to understand the fast evolving situation, they face the same difficulties. And I think what you've already said is, or what you've already seen is, that they have shut down the public transport system and they have upped the security level, and now additional soldiers are deployed to Brussels. But I think in such an evolving situation, it is very, very difficult for the authorities to find the right balance between, well, giving the sense to the population that they still have some sort of control while they are actually trying to regain it.
Right. Florian, we also spoke to the Met Police. This is the local London police, and they're saying that London police are increasing their presence at key locations from today following these attacks in Brussels. How much do we know of this network? It seems that Brussels is flaring up. Do you have a sense that this is a coordinated network that also spreads across other European cities and countries?
I think for us, it is impossible to say whether this is sort of a network that spreads across countries, because we really don't know yet who has committed the attack. I think, given the current circumstances, I think there are theories out there that this looks like the Islamic State, because looking at what has happened in Belgium over the past 18 months, from the attack on the Jewish Museum to the failed attempt on the Eurostar, and then, of course, the very strong involvement of Belgian nationals in the Paris attacks, there is now obviously the great fear that this is a related cell. And from what the security services found out in the aftermath of the Paris terrorist attacks, that Abaoud might have traveled to the UK, there are obviously very, very grave concerns that that the ambition of the Islamic State extends way beyond striking continental Europe, but could also are planning a strike on the UK.
Dr. Otto, you studied at the esteemed War Studies program at King's College. How do suicide attacks fit into war? Give us perspective on how this occurs. Multiple suicide attacks. There used to be a few a year, one a month, one a week. Frankly, it's almost daily now. Tell us about suicide attacks.
Well, I think the perception that this has changed to such a great extent is in this case very European-centric, because suicide attacks have been happening on a day-to-day basis across the Middle East and also in some areas of Pakistan for a number of years now. Now, what is changing is that we're seeing this more and more coming to Europe. And I think, we're still at pains to really understand of what is behind it. Is this one particular cell that has developed the capabilities in Europe that is now carrying out these attacks? Are we dealing with multiple cells? Is it just linked to one organization like the Islamic State? Or, and this is also something that is still being considered, is there potentially also a push from other Islamist militant groups, especially Al-Qaeda, going on to actually say, look, we're still relevant. The Islamic State aren't the only ones who have these capabilities. So, unfortunately, and this is, this is really, really difficult at the current situation, is we need to know more until we can be certain of what is behind this.
Well, that's right where I wanted to go. Is it a mystery about these people that will kill themselves to kill others, or do you as an expert have a knowledge base about where they're from, the motivation to give their life, etc.?
Well, in terms of where they're from, is at least when we're looking at the Paris attacks, we know where these people were from. Most of them were Belgian and French nationals. And they were sort of clearly motivated by a desire to die for the cause they believe in. And It is, I think, also worth mentioning that that suicide bombings haven't been pioneered by Islamist militants. It's something that came up first, I think, in Sri Lanka, and was then quite heavily used by Kurdish militants in the 1980s. And I think, you know, the rationale behind it is really, from the perspective of the perpetrator, it is ultimately the willingness to die for the cause they believe in, and for those who send them, it's a very rational act to provide, or well, to deliver a targeted bomb to the location where they want to strike.
Right. Florian, thank you so much. Dr. Otto is with Verisk Maplecroft, Bath, the United Kingdom as well.